tried to kill Donald Trump again. And you're here at the podium in the White House briefing room calling him a threat. How many more assassination attempts on Donald Trump until the president and the vice president and you pick a different word to describe Trump other than threat?
Since what we saw the FBI classify as an attempted assassination on Donald Trump's life on Sunday, there has been this absolute faux outrage from MAGA, disingenuous talking points being pushed, and dangerous attacks on Democrats being made, saying that we are responsible for political violence in this country, when in fact that's of course not true. It is the rhetoric that Donald Trump pushes, but more than anything, they're missing a very obvious point, which is we should be addressing the epidemic of gun violence in this country. But of course, MAGA doesn't want to talk about any of that. All they want to do is point the finger, complain, grift, and share their grievance. It is all they do. And so, of course, we could expect that chief among them. Well, Donald Trump, yes, would be grifting and complaining, but the MAGA hosts at Fox News just had to jump in as they always do. And so Peter Doocy today at the White House press briefing was deciding he would ask as disingenuous of a question he could press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, and as we can expect, and thankfully she absolutely shut him down. And I want to check that out. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, it goes a long way in supporting this channel. Now let's check out this incredible clip.
Tried to kill Donald Trump again. And you're here at the podium in the White House briefing room calling him a threat. How many more assassination attempts on Donald Trump until the president and the vice president and you pick a different word to describe Trump other than threat?
Peter, if anything from this administration, I actually completely disagree with the premise of your question, the question that you're asking. It is also incredibly dangerous in the way that you're asking it, because American people are watching. And to say that from an administration who has consistently condemned political violence, from an administration where the president called the former president and was thankful, grateful that he was okay, from an administration who has called out January 6th, called out the attack of Paul Pelosi, called out and said we need to lower the temperature after the Butler incident, and now for you to make that kind of comment in your question, because your question involved a comment and a statement. And, it is... that is also incredibly dangerous when we have been very clear in condemning political violence from here. What I have said about the president, the former president, about January 6th is facts that you all have reported. It is fact. When you have a former president who basically says that the election wasn't, the results of the election were not the results of the election. When dozens of more than 60 Republican judges said that it was a free and fair election. More than 60 said it was indeed a free and fair election. You had more than 2,000 people who were told to go to the Capitol. It was one of the darkest days of our democracy. One of the darkest days. There were law enforcement officers who died because of what happened at the Capitol. And they were there because the former president told them to go there. I mean, I don't know if that's not a threat in our democracy when it was one of the darkest days of our democracy. January 6th, one of the darkest days. And so we have been very clear from here. Now, we can have a disagreement on policies. We can, on issues. That is what we should do. It is important to have those disagreements. It is welcome to have those disagreements on the economy, on healthcare, on foreign policy. But when you start bringing political rhetoric, that is not okay. And that's what you've heard from us too. You've heard of differences on policies.
But to your point, there are people watching at home who might miss the part where you say, let's lower the temperature, and there are mentally unstable people who are attempting to kill political candidates, attempting to kill Donald Trump, and they are still hearing this White House refer to him as a threat. Is there no concern that people are taking that literally?
We're using examples. We're not just saying that just to say it. January 6th, Peter. January 6th. Wait, January 6th. How many times do we have to? January 6th, 2021. That is a fact. What was reported that happened on that day by some of your colleagues. I mean, and we have at the same time denounced political violence over and over, political rhetoric over and over again, over and over again. But I know your focus has to be on this side of the house. It can't be on your side of the house. I get that. But we also have to be careful on how you're asking me these questions. People are watching, and is what you are saying about us raising political violent rhetoric, however you just formulated it, this is an administration that has denounced and condemned any type of political rhetoric or violence. It is the reason why this president decided to run in 2020. That is why the president decided to come back. He believed that it is important to save the soul of America, of our nation, and he believed it was important that we continue to fight for our democracy, fight for our freedom. That's what you see from this administration. I'm moving on. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, I'm asking about
Donald Trump has always been and will continue to be a threat to democracy until we defeat him at the ballot box. And then still, he will try to attack our democracy, but there is nothing wrong with saying that Donald Trump himself will tell you that he wants to be a dictator. And so when we use Donald Trump's words against him, how is that dangerous? He is the one saying them. So maybe MAGA should reevaluate and realize that it is the leader of their party and his policies, his conspiracies, the division that he SWS. Maybe that's what's contributing to political violence. Maybe it's directing a VI mob at the Capitol that's creating political violence. And so I won't hear any of this. And of course, neither would Jean-Pierre. And I'm so glad that she shot down Peter Doocy. And I also want to add, when you say that Democrats are responsible for political violence, MAGA, it only encourages your supporters to go after them. And so, if you actually want to have this conversation, stop behaving that way. It's so ridiculous. And of course, we have seen this all across the angry MAGA movement. But one of the most insane examples of it was Don Jr.'s meltdown of reaction yesterday. Right here.
Someone who's literally worse than Hitler. Someone who's the greatest threat to democracy ever. Someone who's going to stay in power forever, even though he left last time. I mean, minor detail. Civility, remember? Civility and joy. That's the Harris campaign. Everything's joy and civility. That won't buy you your groceries.
It shocks me every time I hear this talking point from Don Jr. or really anyone in the MAGA movement that it is only Democrats who have warned of the threat to democracy that Donald Trump is, or compared him to Hitler, when Donald Trump's own cabinet officials have warned us that he is a threat to democracy, and his own running mate, J.D. Vance, was the one who said he thought he would be America's Hitler, and now he's running with him. So that answers that question, Don. It's just such disingenuous attacks coming out of MAGA. And again, if they really cared about this issue, their first instinct wouldn't be, how can we fundraise on what type of email should we write to grift off of our supporters? What type of attack can we make on President Biden or Vice President Kamala Harris? That is their focus. Is fixing Donald Trump's terrible poll numbers, distracting from his failure on the campaign trail, and while he was president, because they have nothing else to talk about, they want to distract, while in fact, they are the ones actually encouraging political violence. And it's not just January 6th. We have seen this in Donald Trump's MAGA rallies all the time since 2015, since he came down that escalator, and he's doing it again. Now attacking Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, actually causing political violence, elementary schools have been evacuated because Donald Trump and Kamala Harris called that out in a perfect way right here.
This is not new. This is not new in terms of these tropes. This is not new in terms of where it's coming from. And, you know, whether it is refusing to rent to people, rent to black families, whether it is taking out a full-page ad in the New York Times against 5 innocent black and Latino teenagers, the Central Park 5, calling for their execution.
It's disgusting. And it's causing political violence, but he doesn't care. He wants to grift. He wants to try to save his failing campaign, which isn't working, thank God, and is only getting worse because of this attack, and only getting worse because we call it out. And so we have to continue to call out Donald Trump every single day. And of course, we will be doing that on this show. And so if you want to support that message, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video, drop a blue heart in the comments if you stuck around to the end, and if you want to go an extra step further and supporting the show. I am a college student doing as much as I can to bring y'all the news every single day. And so if you want to support me, you can hit that join button and become a monthly member. It really goes a long way and means the world to me. And until next time, I will see you soon.